Doing it again, doing it again. Ooh, this is the second time I'm recording this message. That seems significant. Second chances, man. First time I was stuck all up in my head. I was getting choppy. The message wasn't coming through fluidly. And that's also a part of the message. Talking about second chances and liminal flow. This concept came to me, or it's been coming up, I don't know, last month or two. And if you don't know, liminal flow is go look it up. Go watch a video on liminal flow. It's when water is being shot out through a spigot or a hose without obstruction and at a slow rate to where the water seems like it's standing still. Like it is the definition of smooth operator. I swear to God. Did I say laminal? Laminar flow. And boy, howdy. How's it going? If you don't know me, my name's Isaac. I'm a spiritual gangster, and that's all you need to know. I wanted to go off on a tangent on everything I am, but I just is, and it is what it is. What it is. Okay, stop that. Anyway, what it is. Thank you for showing up and being here. Just some updates that's been going on in my life that pertains to this message is life be lifing, and obstacles be getting in the way. Murphy's Law is very real, and Murphy has been showing up in my life. But, excuse me, good news is that I've noticed I don't deal with Murphy the same way I used to, where in the past, intrusions, obstacles, interferences would come up of how I saw my vision and my dream manifesting, and these things would come to get in the way and block that, you know what I mean? And it would get me stuck in my head. That is very significant. It would get me in cycles of overthinking and overanalyzing and just stuck in a rut. And so what I hope to convey here is the formula to get out of that mess, because it doesn't have to be that way. Like, before, I would find myself consistently waiting on Godot, right? What is that? It's where, I'd sit, meditation or prayer, and wait on God to give me the answer. And I'm feeling some resistance saying this now, because I do think we co-create with Spirit, and it is important to check in and have that time with Spirit to make sure you're in alignment with love and truth and all good things, right? But also, we have free will, and we are here by design. Like, we were given free will by design. It is my belief that God gave us the ability to choose on purpose. And so what do we do with that? Where am I going? I don't even know. But it's a new approach, which is the main shift here. So if you feel yourself stuck in a rut, what might need to be changed up is your approach. Instead of needing to know the plan and stick to the plan, it's more about who you are and how you show up. The art of showing up is the solution. You were born ready. That's an affirmation I've been working with. Born ready, given to me by my good friend G-Bid. Shout out to Gilbert, man. You're a real one. But a lot of the times I would prevent myself. I would hesitate on acting in my dreams because I would think, man, I gotta put in 10,000 more hours. Maybe I need a degree. Maybe I need to have some tangible evidence of my first milli before I like show up and consider myself a valid a valid example. You know what I mean? That's all false. Uh, one of the part of that approach that I was talking about is wrapped up in an identity. And so, who do you think you are, right? That's something I've heard my whole life. Who do you think you are to do that, to think that way, to have those dreams and desires, right? I would argue culture, our environment tries to teach us that. Okay, where am I going with this? Back up, Terry. Identity. Who do you think you are? Part of my new approach includes an identity shift, which happens to be that I am a son of God. And with that inheritance, I have the birthright to feel good and prosper. And that is in direct contrast to the operating system I was under before, which is I'm a son of a bitch and I belong in a ditch. You know what I mean? Like, the environment I grew up in very much taught me to believe that. Um, and so I know from reading Richard Rohr and his experience with working in Alcoholics Anonymous that the biggest transitions or the biggest transformations people have is due to the spiritual component or the identity shift that comes from working that program, which I believe part of it is tapping back into one's own individual sovereignty. And there are biblical references to that program, I believe. But I'm not here to Bible thump you over the head. I'm just here to express my experience. And so psychology has an approach called Gestalt, which is taking all aspects, all realms of life into consideration with whether you are or aren't feeling a sense of health and well-being and overall fulfillment, right? And those are bio, psycho, social. And I'm going to touch back on what I just mentioned with spiritual. I think that's really what Gestalt missed out on, is the spiritual component. And so if you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling that you're just repeating the same cycles and you're not progressing forward in your life, it is important to look at those three basic core components. Biology, are you drinking enough water? Are you eating healthy food? Are you getting enough sleep? It seems super basic, but honestly, there's been studies done on when people are trained with a lack of sleep and how they go insane. So it's vital, it's important that you become fiercely dedicated, devoted to your nighttime routine. I know optimizing culture really loves to focus on the morning, but I would argue your nighttime routine is maybe more important. And on getting your basic needs met. Basically, drink your water. Psycho, how are you talking to yourself, right? Most of us don't question this because it fuck your feelings culture, right? I will never be one of those people to say fuck your feelings or it's all in your head. Those two phrases have been used against me, and I will fight. I will fight an uncle brother who tries to tell me those two things because they've been manipulation tactics. And so, how to clarify those cycle, like is your thought your own, and how to identify that, right? You are not okay. Think about a baby. Imagine a baby, if you can, your little sweet baby ass. um, do you really think you were born with feelings of inadequacy, of hopelessness, of disappointment or despair. No, those things were put onto you, right? They were taught to you. And so the psycho component has to do with a bit of reprogramming, and and it is a practice. You have to find affirmations. Um, Music is a crucial one. Even clips and movies that nurture a healthy sense of self. Um, like I mentioned before, I believe we are all children of God, and we have the birthright to feel good and prosper. And like it is your duty to nurture that sense of feeling good. Okay, some affirmations that I can give you to help. um, I hope you don't mind. I live by a busy road. If you can hear all the hustle and bustle, where I did have some affirmations. Well, the Son of God one, or the Daughter of God. But if you're opposed to using God or religious themes, history be damned. If all your experience has been dog shit, use this affirmation: history be damned. No, you are the page master, and you have the final say on how your life turns out. You do not need to give in to those feelings, again, of disappointment or inadequacy, and think that's all there is, even if that's been your whole experience. Okay? So bio, psycho, social, environment. One of the biggest obstructions I've faced with is environment. I think I touched on that in the last message I gave like this. If you do not have a loving and supportive environment, you need to act accordingly. And I heard make amends, but not with them. You just need to make a plan to get out and because you deserve to be planted in good soil. What I mean by that, given support, given encouragement, and understanding. And if you're in an environment that does not give you that, again, you need to make a plan to get out. But spiritual, so biopsychosocial, spiritual, to help yourself get out of a rut. Spiritual is all about identity. I think I already touched on that. You have to transition from over-identifying with that hypercritic. The mind is a wonderful servant, but a terrible master. And if you find yourself being overly logical, like if you have so this is about spiritual is all about feeling. I'm thinking the Chariot card right now. The Chariot card is coming to mind in tarot. I do have my tarot deck right here, but I don't really want to. I guess we're gonna have to. The Chariot card is connected to Cancer, and Cancer is all about feeling, tapping into your emotions. I gotta put you down for a sec to find it. Don't mind the titties. Okay? By the way, I love me some tarot, and it is a great tool for getting reconnected with yourself. So highly recommended. But the Chariot card is all about tapping into emotion. So if, like me, you find yourself getting stuck in the mind and trying to find a reasonable, logical way to outthink your shitty situation, I would recommend tapping into your feelings, and that is going to be the biggest trust fall of your life. That is going to feel vulnerable. It's going to feel inauthentic, and it's going to feel, vulnerable and inauthentic. I'll just stick with those, because the mind doesn't want to feel. The mind is very comfortable with convenience, with the status quo, and when you allow yourself to feel, that blows open Pandora's box, right? And a lot of us are very uncomfortable with expanding our feelings if we've only been limited to a certain amount, even if that little amount is unsavory or uncomfortable. Like if your experience has only been disappointment and delay, that is a comfort zone, right? Even though it fucking sucks, it's all you know. And if you like, each time you've tried to step out into the unknown, you've got met with more disappointment. You're like, well, that's all there is. No, brother. No, sister. No matter how many times you have dealt with disappointment, know that there is always an upturn. I'm getting like spiral dynamic theories or the slingshot theories. What goes down must come up. Is that a law of thermodynamics? I'm trying to make it scientific when it is definitely spiritual. Know that this too shall pass, even if it's been your whole life, and that, I'm going to say it again, you have the birthright to feel good and prosper. That has to be rewired into your brain. That core belief, that core identity has to shift. And it is done by, I'm not saying it can't be done by one fell swoop, but it is done by consistent, unseen actions, daily actions. The art of showing up. Did I mention that in the beginning? That's what I feel called to do here, is practice the art of showing up. And the second chance, like I mentioned in the beginning, isn't about having the perfect plan and executing on that per se, even though I do think it's good to have plans. It's more about just embodying and being the person that you wish to become, like I have the desire to be a full-time content creator, so here I am creating content, right? Writers write, players play. Play on, player. That's all I'm saying. Good Lord, what am I getting? So, consistency. The song Circles by Mac Miller is coming through. That I've been listening to that song for days on end. And something about the melody is really important. It's So before, I thought, my big break would come through, like I mentioned, one fell swoop, and I'd have just this epiphany that changed it all. But I'm hearing metanoia. It's the micro mind shifts and heart shifts that happen again in the minutes and the hours that go by day to day. I hope that's making sense, and I'm really trying to think of a concrete example. No, think long, think wrong. But anyway, new approach, right? Just get into it. You're born ready. And it's important to... So some... Laminal flow. Bring it back down to earth, son. Willingness. You have to be willing to show up and try. There is no getting around that. Like I mentioned before, the mind wants us to skirt like embarrassment and invulnerability, but that's simply the initiation. That's simply the price you have to pay to be who you want to become. You cannot become something new if you do the same damn thing. You have to try something new, and that all expanding and getting out of your shell always feels vulnerable. So be willing to show up. And with laminal flow, what was I going at? Circles, good Lord. Circling back around to the song Circles and laminal flow. That smooth operator, it's all connecting now. Good Lord. The melody in Circles reminds me of the definition of laminal flow, in that it has to... Let's read the definition of laminal. Laminar. Do I keep saying laminal? Lord have mercy. Okay. Laminar flow, also known as streamline flow, describes the smooth parallel movement of fluid layers with minimal mixing. Unobstructed, in other words. In this type of flow, fluid particles follow the paths of particles that come before them, moving in straight lines. That's not what I'm looking for. It occurs at lower velocities. That's what I mean by that slow melody. And in high viscous fluids, resulting in an orderly, stable flow. Good God, thank you so much. That's what I mean by consistency in showing up. You don't knock off the cobwebs by standing still, and it isn't a overly excited or explosive, unsustainable form. It's day by day. I think that's one of the phrases in the line circles. It's like no need to stress you out. It's one day at a time. Something along those lines. Go listen to that song. You'll get the vibe. You pick up what I'm putting down, partner. 2222, if that's important to you. Anyway, laminar flow, smooth operator. So the new approach basically is slow and steady, man. Like, just keep going at it. And when you're feeling that you're not making any progress and it's all for naught, metanoia. That's the mindset that has to shift. That's when you catch yourself in that moment. That's the example I was looking for. When you feel like what you're doing isn't working, isn't paying off, pause. Practice the pause. Exhale. Allow yourself to acknowledge that feeling and then recognize it's illuminating that it is actually important to you that what you're doing, it's important. What you're doing is important. Why am I having trouble saying that? You wouldn't feel that sense of disappointment if it wasn't important to you. I think a lot of us are, I'm speaking for myself, I had repressed things that I actually wanted because at least I wouldn't feel disappointed when I tried and I didn't get it. You know what I mean? But you have to try. Willingness to show up and be seen. Practice the art of showing up and know you're right on track. You're doing the damn thing. Laminar flow. I hope that helped. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.